Welcome to the Scoop World Order. It is +1 Monday. We're getting it in today. We have a fantastic show planned for you guys. We're going to talk a little bit about the quarterback race, talk about Dominic McKinley, who's going to commit this week, and also our concerns for the 2023 season. There's some stuff we haven't talked about that we're going to get into. Really excited about this show. But as always, we appreciate you guys joining us. Again, we are growing like crazy. Thanks to you guys. Thank you guys all for tuning in. If you enjoy this content, please leave us a like. Click subscribe and click that little alert bell. We know that you regulars like to come in here, kick it with us, and send us some questions over there. We're going to take some questions today. If you do a super chat, it is automatically an answered question. So if you guys have something you're dying to know, throw us a super chat. I mean, we love those. They're fantastic. They're great for the site. We appreciate that so much, and thank you guys for your generosity. And if you guys want the best companion there is for Ohio State football, join BuckeyeScoop.com. Our message board is absolutely bonkers right now. Nonstop new topics, talking about the quarterback race, talking about what people are betting on this week, talking about who's getting moved around or cut in the NFL. Absolutely crazy, but it is fantastic, and we're really excited to have all of our new members on BuckeyeScoop.com. We'd love for you to join us. If you guys haven't been a part of a message board community, it's a special place. We have some fantastic people on there. Some of my best friends have come from there. I think you guys will really enjoy it. It's a very clean experience, and we have great people on there. So I'd love for you guys to join at BuckeyeScoop.com. And as always, shout out where you guys are watching from. I love seeing where you guys are watching from. I've seen Portsmouth. I've seen Naples, Florida. I've seen Youngstown, Ohio. So shout it out. Put it in the comments. Let us know where you guys are watching from. With that being said, I'm going to talk to the home, or Mr. Nevadabuck, who is from the home of the Little League World Series champions from El Segundo. Mr. Nevada, how is it? Did you have, I know they probably can't do champagne showers when they're like 8 years old or whatever. Did they have like chocolate milk showers? Did you greet them at the airport? Did you take them to Chuck E. Cheese? How excited were you about that win? And are you equally excited about the 2023 Buckeyes?
Yeah, very excited. Been talking with a lot of the parents, and they're going crazy, and just so much fun with that. But yeah, equally excited about the Buckeye season coming up, counting down the days. It's this is the best time of year. You've got these early betting opportunities during the college football season. You got the Buckeyes playing, so we get a chance to see the everything that we've been looking at in the off season, get it to on the field. So yeah, this is absolutely the best time of the year. And as you said, best time of the year ever to be part of a message board. If you're not a part of a message board and you think, I'm not sure what, it's so much fun. And you do develop some great friendships through it, and a lot of information, just a wealth of topics. You can just ask about anything, whether it be roofing contractors or I bonds redemption, and stock market tips or whatever. So lots of opportunities to talk to different people, and it's really a lot of fun. And special thing, I'm announcing this right now. I've got a lot of comments. Why is Nevadabuck's camera never on? Why is Nevadabuck not live? We're closing on 21,000 members. When we get to 25,000 for that show, there'll be a Nevadabuck Reveals show. There'll be Nevadabuck's camera will be live on that show on the 25,000th subscriber. So something to look forward to, something to mark on the calendar for you, something to look forward to, and going to be a big show. But let's get after it.
Super excited about that. That'd be fantastic. So keep adding the members. Send the show out to your folks. Nevada, the quarterback derby is not, I won't say it's the most secretive since 2015. It might be. 2015, it just felt like it was going to be Cardell because he came back, won the national championship. It's hard to bench a guy that beats Alabama and Oregon his last two games, not to mention wins the Big Ten title. How secretive is this? Do you feel like it's Kyle McCord? Like, I feel like the pendulum has gone both ways. I think Devin Brown's a better player. I think Kyle McCord, the safer thing to do is the vet, the older guy. He's not a vet. He started one game. He's 1 year older, but that compared to Devin is a little bit more veteran status. Where are you at with this thing? I'm thinking it's going to be McCord, but I don't think that being named the starter is going to really matter because I think that they're both going to play, if not equally, then close to equally, especially through the first 3 weeks. I think that, again, I've talked ad nauseum about the season being the first quarter of the season is a cakewalk, an absolute joke of a schedule, cakewalk. And they got to take advantage of that because once we, start adding teams to the Big Ten, And we get to the super conferences, like you're not going to have like the cakewalk to start the season. You're not going to have Youngstown State and Western Kentucky on the schedule anymore. So this is a good time to evaluate. It's almost like it kind of like reminds me of like preseason in the NFL because you can't really lose. Well, I mean, the NFL, it's more like just pure evaluation. You don't really care if you want to lose. This is like you really can't lose because you're so much more talented than the teams you're playing. But where are you at with it? Who you're projecting to start? And does whoever you project to start hold on to the job after the first 3 games?
Well, I think first of all, let's deal with one topic here. People are talking about this, the idea of giving a veteran, giving a guy who's been here for several years a chance, like it's some sort of like crazy idea or something that Ryan Day invented or something. And it's not. I mean, this has been going on in sports since the beginning of time. So the idea that Cal McCord, who has dutifully put in years of practice and workouts and time, should be at least given the opportunity to prove what he can do in the field with the ones and when the games count. It's not a crazy idea. And the information I have, I think McCord's starting. I think McCord's starting, and they both play equally. I think that's the chalky kind of prediction in terms of what goes on with this. I've been saying for 6 months, yes, for you people out there in Twitter land, I'm the first person to ever say this, that Kyle McCord will take the first snap, and I think Devin Brown takes the last snap. I think I do like Devin Brown's upside. But again, we're all talking this way, but if Kyle McCord goes out there and throws 4 touchdown passes on Saturday, and Devin Brown, gacks up 3 interceptions, like people are going to change their mind. So it's like I reserve the right to change my mind based on what I see on Saturday. I think both quarterbacks will play well. I think they're both very capable quarterbacks. They can just do different things. I think Kyle's a little bit more conservative, a little bit safer, a little bit more likely to check down, whereas Devin's more likely to look for the big play. And I think McCord starts. Every bit of information I have is that McCord gets the start, and that they both play equally. And then we kind of evaluate on Sunday in my uncomfortable truths column. What did we see on Saturday, and what does that mean for week 2, 3, 4, and beyond?
Yeah, I agree. I think McCord starts, and I've been a part of some very interesting quarterback competitions at Ohio State. I was here with Krenzel and McMullen. Obviously, Krenzel won the national championship in 02. I was there in 03, and Scotty Mack was every bit as good as Craig Krenzel. He just, off the field, was a little rowdy, which when Jim Tressel's the quarterback coach, it doesn't really equate, because make no mistake about it, Jim Tressel's the quarterback coach. It's a lot like Ryan Day. I mean, there's one guy that's picking the quarterback, and it's Jim Tressel, it's Ryan Day. And there might be, Brian Hartline, Corey Dennis, and 7 interns, and Todd Finch, and whoever else. But there's one guy that's got the 51% vote, and whoever Ryan Day wants to pick is who he's going to pick. And there's nothing wrong with that. I was Troy Smith, Justin Zwick, Justin, the more heralded guy, the earlier commit. When they came out of camp and Troy was as good, if not better, they went with Justin, because Justin was the guy that was the more McCordish type guy, the guy that veteran, field general, whatever, higher rated guy. So, but when the game started, I mean, Troy was better. Then when he took over, we went on a nice little run down the 04 season, and we had that run in 05 and through 06, and Troy was won the Heisman. So I mean, there was no question Troy was much better than Justin. And then I was there for Joe Bauserman versus Braxton Miller. So again, we started Joe Bauserman over Braxton Miller. When you say that out loud, it sounds absolutely insane. But I was at camp. I remember we charted everything. Joe Bauserman was better than Braxton in camp, which is, again, it's practice. It's not a game. Guys that can run, like Braxton Miller, who can run a 4.3, are hampered when they're in black jerseys, and they can't be touched, and they can't create. And there's touch sacks, and he could have had him. Oh no, he did. He's down. Whatever. So Joe Bauserman beat out Braxton Miller, and it wasn't close. And Braxton was young. He wasn't really a big time grinder, to say the least. He wasn't a guy that was staying late to watch film and learn the playbook and whatever. He had other priorities, and it hurt him. When Urban got there and forced him to be a grinder, it was different. So Joe Bauserman beat out Braxton Miller coming out of camp, which again, Braxton Miller has more talent in his little toenail than Joe had in his whole body, but Joe was better. And again, it wasn't that we didn't like Braxton, because obviously after the Joe Bowserman debacles that we had, we went with Braxton, and Braxton carried us through some wins. I mean, he beat Wisconsin as a freshman and didn't even know the plays. Neither did Devin Smith. We had that miraculous touchdown. So again, like there's a lot of dumb sayings in the world, but like when people say that there's no such thing as gamers, you have to be practice guys to translate to the game. It's the dumbest thing I've ever heard in my life, because I've seen guys that look great in practice and they get to the game and them lights come on and those people are there, and that anxiety, because you don't have anxiety at practice. You go to those games, man. Those games they're boiler rooms. It's a lot of anxiety, because if you screw up, whole world sees it. If you screw up in practice, nobody sees it. And I've been in games that we've won decisively and we've lost decisively, and the whole world knows it. And when you're in practice and you have that anxiety, you don't have that anxiety. You have the worst practice in the world. Nobody knows. That's kind of the beauty, and that's why it's called practice. So, Braxton Miller, massive gamer. Terrell Pryor, massive gamer. Terrell Pryor might be the best gamer in the history of Ohio State. Like that kid, and he was like a good practice player, but man, when them lights came on and TP had it, I mean, he was, we're going to play Arkansas. I had zero fear of Arkansas and Michigan and everybody else that we played because of Terrell, because he was a gamer. So, it'll be interesting to see when these lights come on. But really, the lights won't really be too bright until we go to South Bend. So it'll be interesting to see if the rotation still exists when we get to South Bend, and if one of the quarterbacks seizes it, if they're decisively better statistically. Nevada, again, that was long. Was there anything in there that you were surprised about? I know that you agree with me on the gamer thing, because, like, again, I've lived it. I've seen guys that are great in practice, guys that I'm like, man, this guy's going to be great. They get out in that game, man, and they just stink. And they get nervous, anxiety. They read the mean tweets. They can't handle it. What are your thoughts on that?
Well, look, I mean, we've talked about Steve Bellisari. Steve Bellisari was the greatest practice quarterback in the history of Ohio State, without question, bar none. Nobody's even close to Steve Bellisari. And in the games, he had his moments. I mean, he had his moments of goodness, but there were a lot of bad in there too. But I'm telling you what, if you went to watch practice, and I wanted to watch Steve Bellisari practice a lot. Practice used to be open. I used to get my Subway sandwich and pull it up there with little chips, little drink, sit there and just sit for hours and watch practice. And Bellisari was the greatest practice quarterback. I mean, I swear he was Steve Young. Greatest quarterback I've ever seen at Ohio State. Was convinced he's going to be the next great one. Maybe win multiple Heismans. This is when he was a freshman running the scout team, when he was running down on kickoffs and covering stuff like a kamikaze kid. And it was just absolutely, I won't say awful, but inconsistent as heck when he got in the games. And so, yeah, there's absolutely a thing of practice the gamer. Like I have a kid who's, I won't go into, we all have kids, but I have a kid who's a world-class athlete who isn't great in practice, but when the lights come on in the games, is pretty special. So it's like, it's a different thing. Practice the games. We're going to get a chance to see both these quarterbacks, and thank goodness we do, because if we open up the season with Oregon game 2 or Notre Dame game 1 like we had the last few years, we're having a completely different discussion. We're having a completely different talk. Hey, you got to pick. You got to make a selection, because you've got to get that. You don't want to go into those games with a platoon situation or a quarterback who hasn't got enough reps. Thank goodness. We talk about the schedule being a concern, and I agree the schedule's going to be. Even though I think the schedule stuff's a little bit overblown, because and I don't want to jump around on topics too much, but look like Penn State. People are talking about Penn State. Look how Penn State has done against Ohio State in Columbus since joining the Big Ten. I mean, it's been a house of horrors for them, and they're a different team. So that's why last year when Michigan thrashed them up in the Big House, and we played a tight game, in Happy Valley. It's a completely different situation when they play here. So I think that's going to be played out again this year. But hey, the schedule sets up well for us to be able to break in a new quarterback, get these first 3 games. Don't need to use them all. Maybe use the first 2, have the third one be a full thing. But I think it's going to be fun. I think it's going to be fun. I think there's only, as an Ohio State fan, you should be looking forward to this because there's only upside because these guys are both good. It's just a question of which one's going to be better, and that's going to be fun to watch.
Yeah, and I mean, it forces these guys to be on point. I mean, these guys better be staying late, watching film, getting with their guys, getting organized. I mean, again, there's no, you can't leave any stones unturned when you're trying to win this race. You got to take care of yourself, take care of your body, take care of your throwing shoulder, like have great practices, have great practice habits. Like, they live in an era now in college football where it's never been easier to be great because they don't have class and they have online classes. So they can go to the facility all day. They have catered meals there that are great. So they don't have to leave the facility to go eat. They can work all night. I mean, it's like, it never used to be like that, and plus they have, extra money so they can go get extra work in, extra therapy, whatever. So, I mean, it's like, now's the time for one of these guys to go grab it. And I'm telling you, the worst case scenario is a platoon into Notre Dame, in my opinion. And again, and that could easily happen, but we played Texas in 05. That's one of the games that a lot of us that were on that team, a lot of us that were starters, wish we had back. And, we totally let our defense down. And part of it was because we were rotating quarterbacks the whole game. And, I'll never forget, we didn't even start off great. Troy comes in, throws a touchdown. We go back to Justin. Hamby drops a touchdown. Then, we get to the last drive and it's a TV timeout. And I go over to Troy and I said, "Hey, are you up?" And he says, "I don't know." I go over to Justin. I say, "Hey, are you up?" "I don't know." So we're like in the TV timeout with like 3 minutes to go in the game to go beat Texas. They just took the lead on us on that Lima Sweet catch. And neither of our quarterbacks knew who was in the game. That was a disaster. That was terrible. And I mean, it's not fair to those two quarterbacks. And obviously, Justin went in, he fumbled, they scored. Then they put Troy in for a drive. He got sacked or he gave up a safety. So it ended up being like 25-22. And like, we totally let our defense down. Our defense played out of their minds. Like AJ Hawk and Schlegel, Bobby Carpenter, Dante Whitner, David Patterson. Those guys played out of their minds. And it's just like, we let them down as an offense. And part of it was because, you got to pick a guy and let him roll. It's not fair. I hated being a backup when I played football because like, I don't want to have to guess when I'm going in. I want to be in and that's it. That's the hardest part about this rotation stuff is if you don't know when you're going in and all of a sudden Ryan Day's like, "Hey, Kyle McCord, you take this drive. Hey, you take this drive." Like guys hate that because they can't get into any type of rhythm. They can't, they're scared to make mistakes. They can't play loose. They can't go sling it around. So, Ryan Day's got to make a decision here and roll with it. And don't worry about hurting someone's feelings. If you say, "Hey, this guy's better than you," you get to stand there and hold the clipboard after 3 games. I think that, after the 3-game preseason kind of schedule that we have, we go to Notre Dame. You got to name a guy, and you just got to roll with him. Just my personal opinion. Nevada, what are some of the things you're worried about this year other than the quarterback? We talked in pre-show. You mentioned special teams, something we haven't talked about at all. How worried are you about that?
Well, look, we always talk about one of our core things on this podcast is, you guys are investing your time. We like to give you guys a little bit of insight on something that maybe you didn't know, maybe some information that you didn't quite have, or something you can't quite get anywhere else. Well, here's one of those things. Last year, as part of the exit interviews with all the players, they asked them to kind of rate kind of their confidence regarding the units and the different things. And without getting into names, because I'm not going to try to, this isn't a bang on a particular coach. This is just to kind of give you an idea of an area of concern. The lowest area that was rated was special teams. And that's just a fact. That happened. And you think about last year's, the final play of the season for Ohio State was a special teams play. The turning point of the Michigan game, in my opinion, was a special teams play. And, we talk a lot about offensive line. We talk a lot about quarterback. We talk a lot about the $2 million man, Jim Knowles. But special teams, and, we've got a new place kicker this year, Parker. You can't miss Lewis. And I hope that we're okay. I mean, I hope that we're okay because Place kicking never matters until it matters. And I'm a little concerned about our special. I'm not worried about our punting, but our place kicking. Don't have a guy that's ever kicked for Ohio State before, and our special teams, coverage units, punt return units, punt block units, weren't great last year, and choked at the biggest moment. So for me, right up there with quarterback play is special teams play, and I think it's something that I'm going to have to see some massive improvement on this year, uh, because like I said, it makes up a significant a higher number of your snaps than you think are special teams plays, and you can't afford to be getting beat 10 yards, 12 yards, 8 yards at a time on that, because that adds up to points, and that's the difference in these. I mean, look, the difference in a national championship this year or last year was a 48-yard field goal. And we've got to be, last year, as much as I hate to say it, Michigan's kicker was better than ours. Michigan's kicker was automatic. He bailed him out against Illinois. I mean, that guy he had a funky helmet on. He looked like I'm not sure what that helmet was, but boy, he could kick. And we need kicking is just one of the aspects that I'm just going to be watching. Let's watch those. See if we're splitting the upright on the extra points. Let's see if we're looking sharp on these field goals when we do have to take them. Because special teams don't matter until they matter, and I hope this year that we're special.
I mean, I think last year we had arguably the worst special teams in Ohio State history, just because special teams are so irrelevant now because, you can fair catch kickoffs, which everyone does now. So you don't really have to cover kickoffs anymore. A lot of punts get fair caught. The way we do our punts, we sky punt. The gunners run down and scream at the returner. They scream every nasty thing in the world at them, try to give them a fumble. So we don't give up a ton of return yardage, and so basically like half of the kicking game is irrelevant now. The punts are just basically fair caught by how we do things. And a lot of the kickoffs are fair caught. So it's just, the kicking game is basically dissolved over the last 10 years where they've gotten rid of the 3-man wedge. They got rid of the 2-man wedge. So basically it comes down to, can you run a fake punt? Can you make a field goal? That's what it comes down to. And honestly, like after that game, after the Michigan game where we screwed up the fake punt twice, and we left it on and it was all day. And again, schematically, fantastic scheme. I mean, it was a perfect call, but if you don't execute it, and again, we usually carry one fake punt per week. And if you call on it, these guys better be able to do it, and we screwed it up twice in the biggest game of the year at home when we needed it the most. They let us down to an impossible level. Then, when they have a chance to redeem themselves in Atlanta, they have another one, and we have 12 guys on the field. And we walk through that stuff the day before the game. They do a head count. They know who the backups are. Like, I've been in these. They're like militaristic, and we had 12 guys on the field. I mean, I would have left those guys in Atlanta. Urban Meyer would have fired the special teams coordinator. There's no way he'd have kept that guy, So, I just, when we needed it the most, and again, you understand this. We had a loaded team last year. CJ Stroud is a phenomenal quarterback, maybe the best quarterback in school history. Starting week 1 for the Texans after 3 years at Ohio State, it's a redshirt sophomore. He's starting in the league year 4. He had the highest drafted tackle since Orlando Pace, the guy who arguably could be on the Mount Rushmore of Ohio State offensive linemen, Paris Johnson. DeJuan Jones has had the best preseason of any NFL rookie offensive lineman. Luke Whippler just made the Browns. Loaded team, and we blew it. And it was all, and it wasn't all because of special teams. The defense let us down at points, but the special teams, they don't have as many. We don't get the return yards. There's not the Ted Gins anymore where you see these guys running back punts all the time, kickoffs all the time, just because, you can fair catch it. And they've just taken a lot of it out of the game for safety reasons. So it basically comes down to, can you execute a fake punt? Can you make a field goal? And when we have a dominating offense and our defense played well enough to win, and then you can't get the field goal in, it stings. And again, go get the best field goal kicker in the country. Was Noah Ruggles the best field goal kicker in the country? I don't know. We couldn't make a 48-yard field goal. Michigan's got good. Michigan's guy went in the third round. So I don't know if you got to go hit the portal. Because I played with the best kicker in school history, Mike Nugent. I mean, that dude hit a 55-yarder to win a game, or I mean, and that's the difference, and Josh Houston, who we played with, in '05 when Nugent was a second round pick in the league, he missed a field goal that would have put the Texas game out of reach. So, again, like all those little things add up. You got to get the best guys in the game. You got to get the great field goal kickers. We really haven't had like a dominant field goal kicker, a high draft pick field goal kicker in a long time. I mean, we had Drew Basil, we had a lot of really efficient guys, but we haven't had that guy that people stand up and, ooh, here comes a 55, like Nuge. Like when I played with Nuge, man, he was a rock star. So again, I worry about the special teams because I think we'll be in some tight games this year. I think that, as much as it's not fun to kick field goals, like I think that those things add up, and it's a lot more fun to be up, 10-0 than 7-0 or 13-0 or whatever. It's just, in some of these games when you play real teams, not when you're playing Indiana and you're playing, Alaska and some of these teams we play early on, but when you play real teams, like those points add up. Like, mind you, we lost to Texas, who won the national championship by 1 point, and then we gave up a dumb safety at the end that really didn't count because we were in the end zone just trying to, there was 30 seconds left in the game. So it was basically a 1 point loss. And if we would have kicked the field goal, we'd have won. But we missed it. So I don't know. Is there any other areas of concern, Nevada, outside of the special teams? So I think our defense is going to rock. I mean, the reports I've heard on Jack and JT, I think they're ready to dominate. I think that they both want to go pro after this year. They both need to have more than 4 sacks like they did last year to make it in the league. Because I got an history in the league. The tackles they are the real deal. And those guys are going to have a couple of heavyweight fights because when they see those 2 tackles from Notre Dame, their left tackle's probably going to be a top 10 pick, alt. And then the kid from Penn State is probably going to be a top 10 pick too. So they've got some heavyweight fights. So they got a couple weeks to tune up before they go out to Notre Dame and have that big fight. Any other areas you're concerned about?
Well, I think when we talk about defensive dominance, I think we have to kind of establish the parameters. There was a post on there today talking about, hey, we should have at least 3 or 4 shutouts. They said, and nobody should score more than 10 points against us. And I'm like, well, if that's your parameters, then we're probably going to be disappointed because that's like 1973 level defensive play, and I think that's kind of come and gone. But I think for the OSU defense this year, when you talk about realistic expectations for them, I think that we're looking for them to improve on every category. They've got to improve in points per game and points per possession and yards per game and yards per possession and third down conversions. They've got to create more turnovers. I think they've got to show solid improvement because if they do that, they're going to be a top 10, top 5 defense, and it's going to be there. But don't set your expectations going to be that they have to shut out every opponent because I just haven't seen anybody do that in quite some time. Concerns after everything you just talked about the special teams, that Ryan Day didn't give the special teams coordinator a raise, did he? After last year, did he?
Extension and raise.
Extension and raise. Okay, well let's put that one down. Just move that aside. That's just a little bit of a concern. But no, I've talked about the left tackle. I want to see a little bit more out of Jimmy Simmons. Just gonna avoid bad luck, man. Avoid the injury bug. It's funny because some years it seems like Ohio State just is snake bit, and other years it seems like they go through the whole season and nothing ever happens bad. Let's just hope that we have one of those seasons where we're not talking about injuries, and maybe by talking about this that we'll put the double jinx on it and not have anybody get injured. But that's really what I'm concerned about the most. Concerned a little bit about Brian Hartline and how that works into the offensive coordinator position. How does he work out of the booth? How does he work in terms of play calling with Ryan Day and how that transition's handled? But again, we've got days to establish it, to figure it out the first 3 games. So don't really have a lot of concerns. And again, I'm not as concerned about the schedule as some people. I'm not that worried about Penn State. I'm not that worried about Wisconsin. I know other people are. I'm sure that we'll have some hiccup along the way where somebody will play us tough. It always has been that way as long as I've been watching Ohio State football. But Going to have to get a little lucky and win a close one, and maybe have a field goal kicker line up a 55-yarder like was that against Marshall or something like that when Nugent
Oh
hit that
yeah.
one?
I mean, I was on the field goal team. And now here's the thing: we were tied, so we would have gone to
Yeah, we were
overtime if
tied.
he misses.
Yeah,
So
we had gone over.
it wasn't like we were
Yeah,
losing, and then if he misses it, we're done. But I mean, he drained it with no time left because we were so bad on offense that like we couldn't score. And again, that's my biggest regret about the trust. And again, we won a lot of games, but man, there were times we let our defense down so severely. It was unbelievable. Like, I mean, I couldn't even look AJ Hawk in the eyes. Like, I was just like, I just want to, because I would be so furious after some of these games. Because I'm like, you guys played like the greatest defense in Ohio State history, and we lost. Balled out, hold Penn State to 17 out there at Happy Valley. And the one touchdown they gave up, or it might, I don't know if it's 13 or so, I think it was 17-10, but like the one touchdown was like, it was like we threw a pick and they ran it back to like the 2-yard line or something. I was just like, so that doesn't count on the defense, but I don't know. Yeah, it was, yeah, like I said, Nuge was like the ultimate weapon because, if you put Nuge in like this offense, we'd score. There's no one would touch us in scoring offense because if you get on the other side of the 50, he can hit it, and we knew that. And not to mention, something I loved about Nuge, guess what he did with every kickoff? Kicked it through the end zone. There's no returning, and we don't do that anymore. Now we do the cut kickoff where you got to kick it down in the corner and a guy like Saquon can run that back. But we used to just kick it out of the end zone, which is like basically like a free play every single time you did it. But I digress. What else you got, my man?
Well, no, I think looking forward to the depth chart coming out. I mean, the depth chart should be published shortly, and we'll get a chance to kind of take a look and doing a depth chart analysis in terms of seeing what they're saying, seeing what they're meaning, and see kind of if there's any surprises on it. I think that's going to be great. It's always great fun, but I think especially in 2023, it's going to be really high drama, and I can't wait to see that.
Well, I might actually have to make one. And we'll see if they actually put one out. Because I mean, sometimes they don't put one out, and it'll be interesting to see who's the real third tackle. Is it Luke Montgomery? Is it Fitzpatrick? Is it Zen? Because again, like we're a little thin. I mean, again, when you have 3 guys go pro as juniors, like you got a lot of new faces and new places. So it'll be interesting to see, do they rotate any of the other O linemen in other than the starters? Like that'll be something to watch. Obviously, I don't think that you'll see rotation at the guard spots, but do they put in, Victor Cutler? Do they put in Luke Montgomery? Do they put in George Fitzpatrick? Zen Mikulski, Tigra? Like all these guys that were kind of fighting to be in the mix, and they've moved all over the place. And again, I hate what they did to these kids in camp, making them play both sides, different positions, because frankly, like, they're not good enough at one to play. Like a guy like Tigra isn't good enough at playing right tackle for you to switch him to left tackle and then maybe move him into guard. Like he's got to learn how to play like one spot and actually be good at it, proficient at it, and he's a young kid, and dude, it's hard. Like, I mean, you got to get a guy to master one spot before you start sliding him all over the place and hoping that, well, maybe if we move him around, he'll get better. But, again, that's just my opinion. Well, final thoughts. We'll wrap this thing. But like I said, I'm really optimistic about this season. I think we've got a great chance to be good. I don't see anyone in college football that we can't beat. Again, I know we can score on anybody, regardless of who they pick at quarterback, given our depth and level of talent. But what are your final thoughts as we get through Monday of the first game week?
I think the story is going to be the return of the Ohio State running game. As much as we talked about Marvin and we've talked about Emeka, I really do think the story is going to be all these mouths at running back, Dolan and Mayan and Trey and Chip and X and how do you and Evan Pryor, like how do you feed all these guys? How do you keep them all healthy or happy rather and engaged? But I think it's the return of the Ohio State power game, and I don't think it can come soon enough. But I think it's going to happen this Saturday.
Yeah, I totally agree with you. So, well, we are going to wrap this one up. Appreciate you guys tuning in. As always, thank you guys. Thank you to all the Scoop family tuning in tonight. If you enjoyed this content, please leave us a like, click subscribe, and click our little alert bell so you can see when we go live. We're going to be back here in about 10 minutes with Bill the Bank Green. So if you guys got your recruiting questions, get those fired up. Stay with us. We're going to have to log off for a second. We'll log right back on. But we appreciate you guys so much. Again, join BuckeyeScoop.com. You won't regret it. We've had so much fun. It's been crazy all day anticipating this Indiana game. Just getting people ready to scratch that itch, man. They're ready for Buckeye football, and it's the best companion you could ever have. It's kind of like a Phil Steele magazine, except it's just for Ohio State football. So, and I was texting Phil Steele today, and he's actually going to come back on the show hopefully next week. So we appreciate you guys so much. Shout out where you guys are from. Let me know in the comments who's going to start at quarterback. It's Kyle McCord, it's Devin Brown. We're getting down to nut cutting time. We're going to have to figure that one out quick. So I hope you guys have a great rest of your day. Thank you so much, Buckeye Nation, and thank you, Scoop family. Talk to you guys tomorrow. Go Bucks.